final section of the show tonight, which is where we're going to pick our AFC and NFC championship games, who we see emerging through both of those conferences, and ultimately we'll get to who we see as the overall Super Bowl teams and the Super Bowl winner. But Brian, if you want to start with your AFC and NFC championship game picks, because we saw from last year, it's such a gut-wrenching feeling to fall short at that stage, and it kind of fueled the 49ers throughout the season last year to come back, which is a really intriguing storyline to watch from an NFC point of view. And yet, it's often the situation that the team that falls short in the Super Bowl doesn't make it back, and they suffer a hangover. We've only ever seen 3 teams lose the Super Bowl and come back and win it the following season. It's very difficult even to make it the whole way back there. So with all of that said, who are your AFC and NFC championship game picks?
Yeah, I'll start with the AFC. I went for the Bengals to win the division last week, and I'm very much bought into the Joe Burrow conversations, because I've gone the Purdy route on the MVP. Doesn't necessarily mean I don't see the merits and where he's going. I think the Bengals are primed for a big year, and I think they make the championship game, and it's going to be an AFC North clash in the championship game, because I have the Ravens coming back this year as well. I'm finding a way to get back, and ultimately I think what will happen there is I have the Ravens ousting the Bengals to make the Super Bowl, and have the Ravens representing the AFC come next February. But I see an AFC North clash, and then on the NFC side, it is an NFC North team that are returning to the championship game, but it's not the Lions, it's the Packers. I've been bought into the Packers this offseason as well. I think we're going to see a rerun of the divisional round clash, which we saw this year in the playoffs, and that's the 49ers hosting the Packers, and ultimately the 49ers finding a way to navigate a victory and get back to the Super Bowl again. We're talking about a team that potentially could have been in the Super Bowl 3 years in a row if I was to get this right this year. Having lost that difficult game in Philadelphia, a lot of people felt they would have won that game, and they right the wrongs of that and come back this year. I think they're going to do something similar. I think they're going to find a way to be back in the Super Bowl. So my Super Bowl matchup is the Ravens and the 49ers. I'll come back on the winner. I'll let you do your round of discussion first.
No, what do you see as the AFC and NFC championship games?
Well, starting off with the AFC first, like Brian, I have Ravens getting to the AFC championship game, but that's for me where it ends. And if people haven't guessed already, by the way, I talked about CJ Stroud earlier. I actually have the Texans making it there. Thought about it a lot, and I know maybe it feels like they're maybe a year ahead than where some people think they could be, but I just look at the roster on both sides of the balls. I think they've made improvements. I talked already about the offense and, keeping them slow out there, and CJ Stroud having an MVP season. You look at the weapons he has at receiver. Even Joe Mixon coming in is a productive running back who will help take the pressure off and will get yards and touchdowns himself. So I like this team. They're an exciting team, and I really I see them pushing to the Super Bowl. And on the NFC side, I'll go to an NFC North as well. And no, it's not the Bears. I'll go with the Lions. And look, taking the Bears cap off, if you look at what this Lions team has done over the last number of years, they've just been building slowly and slowly. That offense is just excellent. We talked earlier on about Goff. He's just in the right situation. He does it the right way. There's nothing flashy about it. They have built this team up to a really, really good team. And I think they're going to get there. I think the 49ers will come back. They have such a strong team on both sides of the ball. But I just think the Lions are going to be too strong. I think they'll learn from last season. Because you look at halftime and the Lions, a lot of people thought they might make it, and it just collapsed in the second half. I think they learn from that. And I think it's the Lions against the Texans in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think those are really interesting picks. I'm not going to say I slept on the Texans or forgot about them, but it's funny. Like I looked very closely at the Ravens and the Bengals in particular, and the Chiefs as a class at the AFC, and the Texans really are knocking on the door. For me, the reason I didn't see them advancing that far, or don't see them advancing that far, is actually, strangely enough, it's the Stephon Diggs pickup. I just think that's the wrong. I think they bought him. We talked about, Kieran, you buying Daniel Jones at the bottom of the market and there being value there. I think Stephon Diggs is topped out. I would not have added him into that mix. I think that's volatile to add in there. Who wears the WR1 pants in that house? Because he's going to think that he does, and I'm not necessarily sure that's the case at this stage of his career. I think that's not necessarily one that Buffalo are going to live to regret walking away, especially if Khalil Shakir takes on the mantle that you've assigned them there and turns out to be the breakout player of the year. They'd very much like that to be the case at Orchard Park, I'm sure, in the season ahead. But like I have the Lions in the NFC Championship game. I have them playing the 49ers. I think the Niners will get back there. One thing I love about the Lions is, and a friend of mine talks about this all the time, is core belief. Not reason that you're not going to have doubts and you're not going to have disappointments, but that team to me just screams, and I see it out of every pore in everything that they say and that they do, and everything I've seen from them over the last couple of years, that they've absolutely bought in 100% to Dan Campbell. They've bought into what they're trying to do there. Everything he said that they were going to do, they did. Right back from the early press conferences, remember he turned up and he'd be nearly crying, and in some cases actually crying after games. He was so disappointed that they lost again, and they're putting in everything and they're doing everything it takes, and they're going to get there, and they'd lose week in, week out. They never let the belief out, though. They always, to me, shaped up like a team that thought ultimately we are going to get there. We're bought into this. We're fully behind it. And I think that's probably why so many people were on that bandwagon last year and felt that to be the feel-good story. Even, NFC North supporting rival team supporters like us really wanted to see the Lions go well last year, and we're delighted. I would have loved to see them go to the Super Bowl. I think they will go to the Super Bowl this year. I have them coming out of that NFC. I think that this is the one last heist for the 49ers, but unfortunately I don't think they're going to get the diamond out of the vault. I think they're going to come just short on this occasion, and I think it's the Lions who are going to be representing the NFC at Caesars Superdome. Out the other side, as I say, I'd filleted the Texans out. I think it's going to be Chiefs Bengals. And I think I'm probably going back against a lot of things that I've said, having talked up Joe Burrow as a comeback player of the year, a possible MVP and all the rest of it. I just think the Chiefs are going to make the Super Bowl out of the AFC side. I just think this is a story that's going to carry us all the way to New Orleans, whether the Chiefs can actually do that one thing that we've never seen anybody do before and get the 3 in a row. I think they'll at least get the chance to compete for it. I think they will go to. I think they will go to the Super Bowl. I'll leave it up to the final segments to reveal whether I think they're actually going to win it. But Kieran, who are your AFC and NFC championship matchups, and who do you think is going to come out on top in each of the two conferences?
Yeah, AFC, I have Houston over Cincinnati. I just love, I've been talking about it for a while. I keep reiterating that I think that's the best wide receiver room in the league with Houston. And it's not even that; it's just the defense too. Daniil Hunter, Will Anderson, Derek Stingley. I think everything is lining up for him, and it's another year of CJ Stroud just hitting form. And again, we talk about these windows. You got, this is probably year 2 of Houston in that development. Year 3, then you start looking at rookie contracts and who needs to be paid, because we're seeing all those problems across the league with different teams. I think it's going to be a little bit too much for the Bengals to get there. With Joe Burrow, may run out a little bit of steam towards the end. That defense again, there's a couple of question marks about that defense. Yeah, they got Trey Hendrickson, but is there enough durability in that defense to last into January and into the cold weather? So I got the Texans over the Bengals. NFC, kind of like Noel, I got Detroit over San Francisco. I just think everything is aligning for Detroit. They should have been, to all intents and purposes, bar the flukiest helmet bounce that anyone's ever seen, should have been in the Super Bowl.
No, Kieran, it was because Dan Campbell kept going for the 4th down before Brian jumps in. It was the freaking helmet. Well, it was the helmet, the bounce, the freaky bounce.
That was the 17th version of Brock Purdy luck that we saw last season. I talked to Brian plenty of times about this guy is the luckiest quarterback I've ever seen. But that's, again, we'll leave the Purdy talk for another day. I don't want to get any more heat from it. But I love Detroit. I love everything about it. The story will be incredible. I mean, 1957 is the last time they won a championship. I mean, this team is starved for anything to do with success. Motown has been around longer than, that championship season has been around since Motown. Now they need, something positive in that city, and I think the Lions is everything they need right now. They got Eminem behind them. Dan Campbell's a hell of a coach. They got another year with the law firm of Gibbs and Montgomery, and Jameson Williams is coming back. Hutchinson, and I love Anzalone. I'll say it again. I'll say it every pod if I need to. The linebacker, Alex Anzalone, is just a phenomenal player. And I like the Lions over the Niners. I think what's interesting for me is it's going to be another season, in my opinion, that the Niners get just too close, or just not close enough, I should say. And I think this is going to be the parting of the ways with Shanahan, because again, these contracts you saw with the Ayuk stuff, the contract situation is going to continue in San Francisco. They can't pay everybody. Someone's going to catch feelings. Shanahan's going to move on. They're going to get some new blood in. and they can't pay everybody. So there's going to be a lot of players that are going to walk at the end of 24. So I think they're going to take a little drop off. Fred Warner, people like that, Ufanga, who's coming back after injury, but all these superstar players, you can't pay everybody. Someone's going to have to go. So there's going to be not a total rebuild, but a kind of a retooling in San Francisco after all this. So I like the Lions over the Niners, and I like my Super Bowl champions are the Lions. I love Detroit. I think they're going to have it their way over Texans in New Orleans in February.
All right. Well, let's pull the final banners off then and look at who our Super Bowl picks are going to be. Kieran, you've already broken the seal there. I have the Chiefs doing the three-peat. I thought, what the hell? It's something that I'd love to see. Just love watching Patrick Mahomes. Was amazing to get to watch them do it in dramatic fashion in Vegas earlier this year. And yeah, I think it'd be just kind of nice to see somebody three-peat. It has to be done at some stage, and I don't think we've seen anybody in a better position to do it. They managed to win in a down year last year. Adding Xavier Worthy, I think, makes that offense even more potent. Steve Spagnuolo and that defense aren't going anywhere either. Carried them for a lot of the playoffs when they really needed it, and really showed up in Allegiant Stadium, particularly in overtime when they needed to stall the 49ers, force them to kick a field goal and march down the field for Mahomes to do what Mahomes does. And that's where I see the confetti falling in New Orleans on February the 9th next year. Brian, you have...
the Ravens and the 49ers in the Super Bowl. And whilst these two teams played each other in a Super Bowl in the same stadium, was it 11 years ago? The result will be different this time around. I actually have to... I acknowledge where Kieran's going in terms of this is a big year for them because there is potential situations and changes in the offing. Not necessarily on the head coach. I probably wouldn't go there, but I do think there's certain players that will probably not likely would move on come the end of the season. And this is their last chance really to get over the line. And for me, it will be this year. I think the 49ers finally end the hoodoo, end the wait to get their sixth. Lombardi, I have the 49ers overcoming the Ravens in the Super Bowl in New Orleans next February.
Shane also has the 49ers in playing for the Super Bowl again, Brian, getting back there against the Bengals. Who did Shane pick to come out on top of that one?
He's on the Joe Burrow comeback train as well. He has the Bengals finally getting over the line. Obviously, they were in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago in SoFi. Didn't get over the line against the Rams. He has the Bengals winning and leaving the 49ers again, starving for their sixth Lombardi. He's gone a different route. He has the 49ers making it, but not having enough on the night. And Joe Burrow walks away with his first ring.
Kieran has a Motown and City of Jazz mashup, which would be an unbelievable night to see New Orleans decked in Honolulu blue. You have the Lions getting to the big game as well, Noel, against the Texans. Who comes out on top in that one?
Yeah, for me, it's going to be the Lions in this one. As I say, all the good things I said about the Texans, they're still young and, they're going to do great. If they get there, that in itself will be amazing for them. But the Lions have, as I've said, they've built up. When you look at last year's team and that collapse, I mean, for me, the biggest issue last season was a cornerback, and that secondary was tough. It was really tough for them to get as far as they did with those issues. For me, was great. As much as I like Kendall Vildor as a former Bear, he's not a guy you want to be relying on in championship game. And they've obviously gone out. They've drafted for Carlton Davis. They've drafted Terry and Arnold. They've drafted Ennis Rakestraw. So they identified that issue and they went out and they fixed it. And I think everything else is in place previous to that. And I think they're going to just grow from there. And I think this will be their year. I think they've built it up well, and it's time for that to cash in. And I think the Lions are going to take it this year.
And interestingly, Brian, you were saying earlier that we could be guilty of a bit of AFC bias. 3 of the 5 of us have gone for an NFC Super Bowl winner after all that.
Yeah, I mean, we've had so many AFC victories over the course of last year. It's not as bad as it was back in the day when the NFC was dominating and winning Super Bowls, I think, for something in the region of 14 to 15 years in a row before the Hoodoo.
I remember reading an article at one point asking the question, would an AFC team ever win the Super Bowl again?
Yeah, it's kind of gone full circle the last couple of years. Well, obviously the Chiefs are dominating and various other teams and over the course of the last 5 or 6 years, but the AFC have had a fair run on it. You had the Broncos obviously beating the Panthers some time ago as well, so it'll be interesting. But look, it makes for a great season. I can't wait for this weekend. Can't wait to do our preview show this Thursday, kind of delving into selections for the games as opposed to our long-term aspirations of what we believe will happen this coming season.
Yeah, we'll be very much living in the moment come Thursday, and we'll have our week 1 picks on that live Thursday show. We've also got a separate Thursday night football preview looking at that Chiefs Ravens season opener on Thursday. Remember, the Packers are playing the Eagles in Rio on Friday night as well, so you get Thursday night, Friday night, and Sunday action in the NFL for this bumper season opening weekend. Just worth calling out that message that Luke put in there about Ricky Pearsall and how 49ers fans' thoughts are all with him, having been shot in San Francisco. Thankfully, seems like he's okay, but we wish him well in his recovery. Not something you ever want to see. And all the best to Ricky Pearsall, and fair play, Luke, for calling that out. I think that's where not only 49ers fans' thoughts will be, but I'm sure many NFL fans' thoughts will be too. Our thoughts will turn to the real action on Thursday very, very soon. We'll be with you then and throughout the season on the Irish NFL Show.